Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, finally welcoming you back to another episode of our Planet Zoo franchise mode Let's Play. We're going to dive right back into Elite Zoo South. Folks, as we do so, I just want to apologize, of course, for the prolonged delay between the last session and this one. I tried to respond to as many questions or queries about it as I came across to let you know what was going on, but I just want to give a heads up. If there is ever an episode that is missing or delayed or what have you, and you're not sure what's going on, you can check out my Twitter. That's almost guaranteed to be a spot where you'll be able to stay up to date with any last minute or emergency scheduling changes or conflicts. I always keep people up to date through Twitter primarily. Even if you're not following me, even if you don't have your own Twitter account, I always link to my Twitter account in the description of every video. So you can, just whether you have an account or not, whether you're following me or not, you can check out if there's a tweet if a video seems to be missing. Apart from that, I do also make community posts on YouTube's community tab if there is a bigger update to make, as there was in the case of Planet Zoo. Now, the thing is that YouTube's community tab updates don't necessarily go out to all subscribers. It's actually rather ridiculous, in my opinion. If you're subscribed to somebody, you should be getting those kinds of updates. It only makes sense. It's, part of the, I think it's part of the experience. But nonetheless, that's just not how YouTube does it. That's just not how YouTube works. But that is the other place where I put out updates for, for big issues or big changes or what have you. So I did do both of those for the current Planet Zoo circumstances, but I understand many of you did not see the messages for a variety of reasons because, you're not following me on Twitter, you're not following me, or you didn't check the community tab. That's perfectly cool. I just want to make it clear. I'm not like, I think it's clear, but in case it's not, I'm not complaining about y'all asking like, hey, where's Planet Zoo? That's perfectly cool. I'm glad to see the excitement and enthusiasm for it and the desire to see it back. But I do want to apologize, obviously, for the delay and for those of you that didn't get the memo one way or another. But just letting you know, in the future, if that happens either for Planet Zoo or for any of the other series you're watching on the channel, that's a good way to try and find out what's going on. And if there isn't an update on Twitter, and there isn't a, that was kind of fun. If there isn't an update on Twitter and there isn't a community post, then that's something bigger is up at that point. You know what I mean? Like, so I try to keep everybody appraised. I try to keep everybody sort of aware of what's going on, especially with scheduling issues. I hope my desire to stay on schedule, has been made obvious over the last year of Planet Zoo, and so y'all can understand how much it bothers me when I have to go off schedule. But anyway, enough of me talking about that. We've been waiting so long to get back to it, so let's get back to it as we do our little train trip over here. I just want to say sorry for the delay and thank you for your patience. It was technical issues. Hopefully they're all gone now. There has been a new set of driver updates for my graphics card. There's been a new Windows update as well. The game hasn't been patched, but hopefully one of those two things has fixed our circumstances and I will be able to record properly. Now, unfortunately, the last session I had recorded an entire hour plus of work. We made a lot of progress as far as management stuff is concerned, as far as, oh my god, the lives of our animals have changed in many ways for many of the animals, but from that 1 hour, only 15 or I think it was 17 or so minutes were actually recorded, and that's where I was like, recording under these kind of circumstances or under this risk of losing footage was just not worth it, because what's the fun in watching a quarter of what's been recorded and then me trying to fill y'all in. But on the topic of me trying to fill all of y'all in, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. So a lot happened in that kind of missing hour. One of the things that happened, it's very weird for me to talk about it in hindsight, because, or rather in retrospect, because like the journey isn't there, and just saying financially we're doing well right now is, how things ended up. But the experience of seeing the ups and downs, and at times we really weren't fine again and there were issues again. Happiness became a big problem again, but got fixed again, and now it's a problem again as we load in. So like that's why I was like, I would rather wait a little while and be able to record things properly again, because those little like micro journeys that happen in a single episode get lost otherwise, or can potentially be lost otherwise. Anyway, I keep saying I don't want to talk about it anymore, and I want to move on from it, but I keep bringing it up myself because it was such a, it did, change things up so significantly. It's why it's like, it's been on the top of my mind for the last very long time, and I just want to, I've got a lot of feelings about it, I guess, that I want to get out there, so y'all know where, what's been going on in my head as far as that's concerned. But yeah, so money's looking all right now, which is good to see. Happiness is, again, still fluctuating a little bit. Not sure why we've loaded into people being unhappy. Last I recall, they were super happy. They were green. Everything was great, but we'll look into that, and hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. Up over here, we've kept it so far just for the boars over here for now. I do believe we have a baby boar, which I do believe you've seen before, but in case you haven't, here they are again. Absolutely adorable in this lighting, in any lighting really. So there was that, and again, just trying to capture in my mind everything else that happened, because it's also hard for me to remember what was and wasn't captured. We did send a bunch of kangaroos into the trade center as well. Many of them have gotten to that stage in life where they are infertile, so decided to put them into the trade center. Apart from that, right now we only have females here because our males were either infertile or they had or it would have been inbreeding if they had mated with the females in here. But the reason why I didn't replace or get in a male kangaroo was because I, at the time, couldn't find any good ones. But also beyond that, we'll take a quick look at the animal storage here. We are at our animal storage limit. In fact, we're a little beyond it. So I want to do a trade session. Now, I could do a trade session right now, but my concern is, rather not my concern, but I like giving people a heads up if y'all are interested in some of these animals. Again, I try to keep the pricing reasonable. And in fact, one of you tweeted at me mentioning that there was a sale recently, and many of you have picked the game up, and it'd be nice to be able to get some of those really nice animals at at not cutthroat prices. I'm all about that. That sounds great to me. So I want to make sure I give people a heads up that I'll be doing that. It'll be for the session that releases on Tuesday. Oh, I should mention, we're back on schedule now, folks. If this episode comes out, that means we're back on schedule, the same schedule as we had before, and we can get back to enjoying our Elite Zoo goodness, right? But anyway, so as I was saying, this will be on the episode that releases Tuesday midnight Eastern time, which means I will be recording it at some point on Monday, when I will be trading out a bunch of our West African lions, a bunch of our snow leopards, as well as Siberian tigers, saltwater crocodiles, red 5 stays. We've got our red kangaroos, pronghorn antelopes, Komodo dragons. Yeah, Komodo dragons as well, jaguars, lots of jaguars. In fact, I believe some new jaguars that were born during the the missing hour, as it were, are in here as well. Some fantastic genes, by the way, across like 90% of these animals. We got grizzly bears, giant anteaters. We got gharial. In fact, Katarina. I gotta check something on these giant anteaters before I trade them out. We've got gharial as well. Lots of gharial, I believe. Some Galapagos giant tortoises as well, and well, we're holding on to Miney here, our common warthog that I purchased by mistake, but it's okay. Might have been a mistake, but we love him just the same. So that's my plan for, again, next session. Recording it on Monday. I'll throw out a tweet when I'm doing that trade session. I'll be aiming for good prices, not like dirt cheap prices like we did for live stream for Elite Zoo North's episode 100, but decent prices, not 10,000 for for these stats, which is, I still don't understand why that happened. I understand why that happens on the marketplace, but it's kind of funny to me. Apart from that, I apologize for the rather messy beginning to this episode. By the way, I knew it was going to be a little messy, and I kind of have like a set of notes with regards to what I want to touch on, but it's hard to just get everything kind of expressed, downloaded, offloaded, whichever term you want to use to communicate everything. I do believe, like, for example, there were more vending machines. That's a minor detail that I don't think... the reason why I feel like everything does need highlighting, so to speak, is I love the input and stuff that I get, right? When y'all have opinions and thoughts or questions or what have you, or you notice something that I didn't notice. You know, I do like that a lot, which is why that missing, you know, hour for me bums me out in many ways. In that sense of like interaction with the community as well. So I'm trying to highlight everything that I feel is worth highlighting from that. I mean, we did a lot of well, actually, hold on. First of all, back over here, I reworked some aspects of Pachamama's garden. I do believe it's flowing a bit more smoothly now, even though it doesn't look like it right now. I do believe it's flowing a bit more smoothly, and I do believe that's helped a fair bit. But since we're over here, let me just check really quickly the... so first of all, if we go ahead and take a look at our Baird's tapirs, we have Atsi, who's pregnant right now. So there was a whole thing, like this, Pachamama's garden had a lot of action with that hour. We have a baby coming through over here. You have decent genes. You have great genes, actually, Atsi. And then we also have Yaotel over here, who has okay genes, I thought. Yeah, all right immunity, but everything else is pretty good otherwise. So that's promising. The giant anteaters, though, we had a passing, if I recall correctly. Let's take a look at our giant anteaters. We've got Wagner here, who, if I'm not mistaken, we brought in low longevity. We compare you to Katarina. You can breed. So why haven't I done this? I think the reason why I haven't done this, I think it might be because of the potential end results not being all that great. I think that's why. Like, they're not terrible, but they're not great. I wish when you hovered over it, it would tell you what that what this line represents. Because I imagine like this is like 80. I imagine. So this is like 70. It looks about the 3/4 mark. That looks like 75. It's better than Katarina, but worse than Wagner. And here, I mean, longevity gets a nice boost. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it was like, I wanted to see if we couldn't get a different male. We can't do Nicolau, obviously, because as you can see, the risk to immunity is too high. That inbreeding is, of course, unacceptable. So that's a bit of a problem. But we can bring Katarina in, so at least we have a pair over here. Maybe they'll have a couple of babies that we can at least trade out. So let's go ahead and get Katarina back in here. Where are we? Animal storage. Over to giant anteater. Oh, it feels so good to just be back in it, you know? I've been missing Planet Zoo so much. I've been missing just like visiting our animals so often, taking care of all the requirements of not just the animals but also the people. It's been a wild week and a half. But it's good to be back. So yeah, let's get Katarina back in here. Now I want to touch on the enrichment over here is extremely low, but that is just because we only just loaded in. I did spend a fair bit of time last session changing up. Well, actually, it wasn't all that much time. A lot of the animals are pretty happy with their enrichment items, but I did have to change some of them up, particularly the capuchin over here. Where are they? Where are you, monkey? There you are. There's one of them. So these guys should, yeah, okay. I distinctly remember changing up their enrichment, so this is just because we are still paused. But yes, we did change up their enrichment. We did a little bit of enrichment work. Most of the animals have stayed happy, which is good to see. Again, it hasn't reached chore level yet. But apart from that, we've seen guests using this quite a bit. I think, oh, right, a big part of that missing hours conversation was with regards to what comes next. Oh man, yeah, that was a major conversation, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself at all with the session prior that did release. Obviously trying to be mindful of that as well as what's missing. It feels so weird, right? Because like in my head I've already said certain things, but now I can't remember if I said them in an episode that survived or didn't. It's just this one episode that's gonna be weird, folks. Again, I know I apologize too much, but I gotta I'm sorry for that. And hopefully we'll be back, you know, on track later on this session, and then following our regular schedule again, we'll be, you know, all up and running again. But yes, okay, so the plan. Now, many of you have suggested that this becomes a joint enclosure, and I think I touched on that previously. I've had a few different animals get suggested as the ideal pick for the interspecies enrichment. I think the Springbok was the one that was leading the charge in terms of most recommended. there was also the suggestion of, well, quite a few things. Let me talk about what my plan is right now. We can discuss the viability of that plan in the comments and whatnot. But my plan, my thinking is, we're going to have, I don't know how. I kind of want to leave some things to mystery, but we're gonna have forested African animals over here, right? There's gonna be a riverboat ride that leads people. The weird thing is that I'm pretty sure the riverboat ride can't go up slopes, if I'm not mistaken. So what we'd have to do is the riverboat ride would have to like start over here-ish, go across over this way, and then you'd have to like take stairs up. Now this area has been suggested. Oh yeah, okay, right. Remembering now what I didn't say. So this area, I've been mentioning, I kind of want to make like a gorge, like a beautifully decorated, like wooded area, just for the sake of having a green belt, just being a beautified area. With at least one waterfall. You got to give me that, folks. Right? It's going to be at least one waterfall. But there was a suggestion that maybe this actually becomes a viewing area instead, or something like the giraffes, because you know the drop, the height plays into that a fair bit, which I thought would be pretty neat if you had like a viewing area up over here, right? And you like stood up over here and you looked down upon a bunch of giraffes. Like what we would do is we would have the giraffe, the antelope, maybe even the wildebeest, or maybe the giraffe, the zebra, if you will, and the buffalo together. I don't know, but three of the animals together in this like large area. My only quote-unquote issue, again, air quotes, with that, is that it might be rather plain, unentirely intended, of course, but it might be rather bland as well. And that's my only real concern. Of having this large tract of land be relatively, you know, just like grass and a handful of animals. I like the idea a lot, though. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I would really like to execute that. The other thing that I would do is I would actually separate those animals from the rest of the safari. That's one thing I'm really struggling with. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm going to be fully transparent. I'm really concerned, and no matter how much, like it's a personal thing. It's like no matter how much I look up references or tutorials or any of that stuff, it's a personal anxiety, and the only way I'm going to get over it is when I actually do it. So, you know, fear not, it's still part of the plan, but I'm just letting y'all know where my headspace is. But I'm concerned that would exclude them from the safari, which is not the end of the world. We might go with, now I can't remember if I expressed this, but there was actually a suggestion which was like, have enclosures, but also have a safari. So the enclosures will have our animals, we'll have them, you know, viewable, we'll have good viewing angles guaranteed, things like that. We'll have their, our usual approach to enclosures where we try and actually do something wild with them. But the safari then would be like kind of a larger loop outside where animals that would otherwise be inbreeding in the enclosure would be released into the safari. Or we would have, it would be less, built up decorations, more natural decorative elements and stuff, but less like what we're doing right now. So we'd have an opportunity to still explore, African aesthetics and things like that, African tribalism, African, cultural, visual expression that we haven't been able to express or rather explore. But we'll also be able to do the rather, plain, I guess, safari kind of experience as well. So I do like that idea because it makes me a little less nervous, I suppose, but let me know what y'all think about that. Anyway, so the plan over here is to have some sort of forest, jungle-dwelling African animals, including one that might make use of water. I don't know if that could be called jungle dwelling, but that's separate from the jungle dwelling. Then we have the riverboat ride that comes up this way. You'd go, like the riverboat ride would take you past the mixed enclosure with the giraffe and whatnot, or past the ravine. You would get off the ride somewhere over here. So it's not a full loop ride, it's a shorter ride. You'd get off the ride somewhere over here, and then you would be able to get up to this area over here. Now we might have a little food court kind of a thing back over here. Washrooms, food, the exhibit animals as well up over here. That way there's a reason to come all the way back over here, a reason to check out the larger enclosure over here, and a reason to even, maybe get on that boat ride or something to spend money on while you're going towards or coming away from that boat ride. And then you'll come up, and on this side, the plan, as I've expressed before, I know, but just to mention it very briefly, we're going to have the dingoes, we're going to have the African wild dogs, and we're going to have the hyenas as well. Now, there was a comment actually about me referring to hyenas as being similar-ish to the dingoes and the wild dogs. I mean that only in that if someone were to turn to me and say hyenas are similar to dogs, I wouldn't be like, what are you talking about? Like, if you told me hyenas were similar to lions, I'd be like, okay, you're kidding, obviously. But if you told me you thought that hyenas and dogs were similar, I'd be like, okay, I can see where that's coming from. They're very different. Hyenas are extremely unique, and I can't wait to talk about them. I find them fascinating. But I just wanted to explain that because I saw a couple comments being like, why are you saying that? They're not similar. Well, they're similar-ish. I can see the parallels is all I'm saying when I say that, and that's why I'm kind of like putting them together. Not only because of my own like, oh, I can kind of see the parallels, but also because much like with Darwin's Den and the conversation we're having about similar but different up over here, I like the idea of having that same conversation over here about, you know, similar but different. Again, trying to put myself in the heads of our patrons, right, of our visitors. So that's the plan over here. And then, you know, this will, I mean, we've got, there's what, 26 or something African animals to explore. We'll have that conversation later, but maybe that safari is a larger outer loop. I mean, y'all let me know what you think about that. Y'all let me know what you think about these plans I'm outlining right now. Those will last us a fair bit of time in terms of executing them to their full potential and to bring them to fruition. So I think that's all the rambling I'm going to do about that for now. Important ramblings, though, those. Important ramblings, I think. But on the mention of patrons, I'll use that as a somewhat of a segue to talk about the fact that we are still doing our usual stuff, folks. I apologize for the slight delay over here, but if you are interested in sponsoring one of the animals at Elite Zoo South or Elite Zoo North, don't hesitate to let me know by leaving a comment down below if you're a channel member, or by sending me a private message if you're a patron on Patreon. Again, you can either sponsor an animal, or you can also join our illustrious named staff. Now, I said or, but I mean and. You can do both. You can have an animal sponsored by yourself, and you can also be one of our staff members. I try to keep it to one animal per month just to, you know, spread the love and all that. But yes, if you're a channel member or patron, make sure you get that in for November. I will try to establish all of those as soon as possible as well. I want to get those sponsor boards up as a part of a beauty pass. I want to get the staff names in as well. Hit me up. Again, if you're a channel member or if you're a channel member, leave a comment down below. I will be able to tell because you'll have a little icon next to your name. If you're a patron, send me a private message on Patreon, because that way I can tell, you know, who's looking for what and how we can, you know, make it happen in the best possible way. If you don't know how to do either of those things, if you don't know how to become a channel member, there's the join button down below, right underneath the video, or there's a link in the description down below. And if you don't know how to become a patron, you do that through Patreon. A link for that is under the I at the top right corner of the screen, but also in the description down below. Again, I try to only mention Patreon and channel membership once a month at the start of a new month. And I guess this is technically the start of a new month, so figure we'd get that out there. No matter which episode I dropped, it would be the start of the new month, the first episode of the new month, right? Okay, oof. Sorry, my mind is going at 1,000,000 miles a minute, so if I'm talking like a bullet, then I apologize. It's because there's a lot I want to make sure I get out there. And again, I know, I apologize too much, but I do apologize for the slight messy start to this episode, but I believe that's everything I wanted to kind of intro us on. I've touched on what I think you've missed. I've touched on some of the changes to the animals. I've touched on trade session, next session. I've touched on the kangaroo situation, the animal trade center situation, guest happiness, and the financial situation, so that's all that checked off. I've touched on Patreon and channel membership, so that's all that checked off. I think we're good to hit play. And I want to mention as well that today we will be having a time lapse as well. But as I hit play, I just want to say that the time lapse that I have planned for today is a low-risk time lapse as far as things going missing is concerned. Now, personally, and I think many of you will agree after last session's time lapse, I feel like whenever something goes missing in a time lapse, it's kind of jarring and unfortunate. It's like, well, where did all this come from? it doesn't even give me time to talk about what I was thinking. You know, so for me, I didn't like that. That was another reason that fed into the let's just wait until this problem gets fixed conversation. And I want to make sure this problem is fixed before I do up an entire enclosure, and then I go, oh, wow, you guys didn't see 90% of the work over here. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it. Like, I don't want to have that situation. So instead, we're going to work on something that I've kind of been putting off for a very long time, which is the upgrade to Darwin's Den. You'll remember we kind of ripped everything off over here, just got rid of the decorative elements over here and left it rather barren. It's been like this for a while. I'm really excited for this space, and that's kind of what I want to focus on today, because I feel like, again, if there's a little bit of editing required and dancing around the issues still required, I'll be able to stay on top of that more so than trying to get an entire enclosure established. But we'll be finishing off the warthog / other animal enclosure next week for sure, and we'll be adding a new animal next week as well, almost certainly. So, you know, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit on animal additions as well, and to get us there, let's get, you know, a beauty pass or two done here and there, of course, to cap off some things that have been set aside or left behind, however you want to put it. Right, so we're just going to wait for the sun to rise, and then we're going to get to it. Oh, I feel it really does feel good to be back. Just trying to get myself back in my element. It feels so good to be back. Oh, right, the rides, we're seeing a fair bit of use as well. There's Katarina, the giant anteater, expecting offspring already. Well, that was fast. All right, we just brought you back in, but okay, sounds good. She wasn't pregnant when I put her away, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm like 90% sure. Have y'all missed the fact that I named this Choo Choo Lou? I can't remember. See, that's all the little stuff. It's just like, I don't like being in that position where I can't remember now what you have and haven't seen. But yes, this is called Choo Choo Lou. We added some vending machines down over here as well to make sure people can get a drink and get some food to the ride and back. Same thing up over here when they leave. They'll be able to pick up some, you know, food and drink and whatnot if they're starving and whatnot. But yes, the ride was performing a lot better. So that's been promising. It looks pretty barren right now, but it was performing better. The situation over here, though, is I was trying to find the sweet spot in terms of pricing to make sure that guests are coming up here, but not in an overabundance. Because what we were getting some huge backups, and that was making guests upset. So really need to nail that price point where guests are still interested in riding these, but not to the point that nobody gets to ride them. You know what I mean? Now I can't remember if y'all saw the full up queues, but that was becoming a bit of an issue. So hopefully this will help us avoid that entirely. Hopefully. We'll find out. Well, it's just a matter of fine tuning a little bit. Oh, we also had. Did y'all see Burka come through? We had a death among the saltwater crocodiles as well. Change things up a little bit over here. Edlock is in the trade center. You can see why I wanted to wait. See why. What's the deal over here? Why are you guys upset? Fishing is a problem. Keepers en route, that's good. Let me just quickly check to verify the enrichment thing. Again, I distinctly remember fixing up enrichment. But, oh, there you are. Hey, buddy. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's check on the other side as well. Just want to make sure I didn't miss these guys by mistake. Yeah, they should be good as well. You are happy too. Beautiful. Love to see it. Love to see it. Atsy is about to have some offspring as well. Wonderful. Some baby Baird's tapirs to get us in the mood of you know, adorable fuzzy little things. Always sparks joy. But on the topic of sparking joy, let's see what's sparking the opposite for our guests. Is there something that's, ooh, yes. A particular problem. A little bit of vandalism going on over here. Go ahead and replace that. In fact, let's just use that as an opportunity to quickly check up on crime. Looks like we're all good for that. Okay, good stuff. Is there some litter somewhere? Oh, I think I also did a little bit of hiring. And no, not hiring, but leveling up staff is another thing that I did a bit of to try and get better use out of our existing staff members. I did also spend a bit of time last session, or sorry, in that missing hour, fixing up like benches and stuff that were in the middle. Removing some extra benches and trying to spread some benches out as well, because you know, lesson learned, don't put benches in the middle apparently. Might want to actually clear some of these out. I cleared a couple out down over here. Or I did something over here that made traffic flow a bit more smoothly, but we might still need to do a bit more, as you can see over here. Let's see if I can't move you. It won't work on the slope here, so let's put you down over here. And we're good over here. Might do the same for this as well. This one I think was working fine though. So let's experiment there still. We're okay over here. I think these guys are watching from over here. That's fine. Anything else making people upset? Yeah, I had happy guests for the bulk of last session actually, or for the missing hour. But now the game's just making me look like a liar. Oh, actually, I should mention. One of the things I want to do is I want to work over here next. After we finish the warthog / whatever other animal enclosure, I want to work on this area next, because when guests get off the train over here, they have this long walk where they see absolutely nothing, which guaranteed is boring them out of their minds. So I want to make sure we have this area implemented. Hopefully going to be able to do that next week. I believe I mentioned that during the missing hour as well, and that should... for me, that's an important mention. Okay, the sun's up. Let's give it a little bit more time. I think we can get some better lighting. And I do just want to see if there is anything else that I could maybe look into. Happiness. This place has great scenery. Too much time walking. I mean, it might be a matter of old guests or guests who would have used... Oh, the other thing is I made washrooms free again. We were charging for them for a little while, right? But we've made them free again, so that's it was in an attempt to make guests happy once more. Yeah, I don't quite see why guests are still bummed out. I mean, is this becoming a problem again? Oh, you know, it kind of feels like it. Wow. Okay. Go move this bin up over here. I did some tweaking last session. I did work a fair bit. But now I feel like all that has been undone. Oh, you know what? I think we need to do... Whoops. I think we need to do this. I think we need to move this. I know this is where our circle is, but we can put something else down over there. Move you down over here for now. Let's see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't, then we'll, you know, have to do something else, obviously. But if it does, then we'll figure out what we put there instead. Pop you down over here. If I occasionally, by the way, trail off, it's because I'm checking my recording software to see if things are still, you know, working smoothly. This area is popular, isn't it? Have we just had a Bears tapir baby? Yep. That explains that as well. Where's the little baby? Where's the little baby? Oh, yes, there you are. Oh, how I have missed the cuteness. Oh, wow, look at those stats, too. Look at those stats, too. You're a little champion, aren't you? Oh, I'm so happy. Alright, cool. Sun is right up right now. Money actually has been getting better despite people's overall unhappiness. This is a relatively shaded area anyway because of all the trees, but this is about as bright as I think it's going to get. So fair enough. I think we should take advantage of that for sure. Guest happiness, we'll take a look at some more. I mean, again, there's a possibility that it's residual unhappiness from when I made a mistake. I don't think, like during that missing hour, I don't think we have any more traffic jams. I might need to, again, this has been a bit of a broken record conversation, but I've been hoping to avoid a rework over here. Oh, right. I believe during that missing hour, I did attempt a bit of a rework over here, and everything was looking kind of like messy and horrible, so that's another thing you missed. See, a lot happened. So much happened. Spent too much time walking. I wonder if it's more people who were, you know what, I think it might be people who were turned off by the pricing over here, and then never decided to, and then got stuck walking the distance instead. That might be what's done at this time. Is that the only thing that I can think of that's changed between when they were happy and now that they're not? So I hope that solves that problem. Now I want to mention as well, I'm still looking for name suggestions for Habitat 26. I do have some that I've noted aside, but they were warthog specific. So if we stay with the warthog only enclosure, we'll go with one of those. But if we're going to go with mixed, then we'll probably look for some more names after we've determined what both of those animals are. Apart from that, we need station names as well for all of our stations. Right now, circuit left and circuit right. Not the most fun names. Up over here, small steam train 3. These guys all need names, and the main ride itself also needs a name. But yeah, we can see guests, I think, are using the train a bit more now. I want to make it even cheaper. That's the other thing I was trying to encourage, is that people use the train a bit more. But we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, truth be told, I'm actually quite pleased to see our financial situation. Look at that. Vandalized. Our financial situation getting better. We might even be able to... Look at that. Zoo rep. I wonder if we're able to raise the prices a bit. Ticket price is fair. Ticket price is fair. Maybe let's keep it as is then. Yeah, let's keep it as is, for now at least, because we have been, surprisingly, again, making money despite people being largely unhappy. So we must be doing something right. Yeah, look at that. Last year, we actually ended up making a fair bit of money. Okay, cool. If it's not broken, don't fix it, I suppose. We can take a look at... Yeah, income's looking pretty good. Income's looking pretty good. Ongoing expenses. Quite a few refunds again last year. Unhappy with visit being the primary reason. Unfairly ejected. Were you caught vandalizing something, maybe? I wouldn't call that unfair. Yeah, unhappy with visit is a big negative. But I mean, if we're still making overall profit, that's promising at least. Good to know. $200 profit right now. It's only you can't make a judgment call. One feeding can make things go one way or another. But I am pleased to see that we went from 80 to 90 in just that handful of minutes this session. Okay, enough about all of that. We'll see how our price changes and stuff affect things after the time lapse, because folks, we're about to finally dive into the time lapse again after so long. Oh, look at that, a cute little balloon up over here. This is this will be our first time lapse of oh, you know what? This wasn't the plan going in, but I love this. This is going to be our first time-lapse of year 2 of Planet Zoo. Planet Zoo celebrated its 1-year anniversary earlier this week, which is, congratulations to the devs. But this is, now year 2, so to speak, of Planet Zoo. And with Darwin's Den being the focus for our time-lapse, we can see how the game will evolve in its 2nd year. Huh? God. Miss making those puns. Nonetheless, folks, Darwin's Den is the focus. Very excited to try and execute this stuff. Again, like I mentioned, we're doing some stuff that I don't normally do, so it gets me all giddy and excited, I suppose is the way to put it. And with that said, I've been wanting to say this for so very long. Folks, it's time-lapse time. Alright, folks, back with another time-lapse. It feels good to just be able to do this for the first episode back. I was genuinely a little concerned that I'd have to spend so much time just touching on everything that has happened and all that stuff that, I don't know, we'd run out of time. But I was like adamant, I want to get a time-lapse in today, and I knew what I wanted to work on, and it was Darwin's Den, because it's been left hanging for so long, and I don't know if it was last session or a couple sessions ago, but there were a couple comments about how it feels kind of barren. On top of everything else that's on my mind, I wanted to make sure that we kind of started to deal with that, tackle that point of conversation a little bit, because yes, you're not wrong, it was barren. It was better before. There was another comment that it was just better before. It's like, yeah, absolutely, because it's not done yet. So let's try and get this thing done. Now, in true Party Elite fashion, as you can imagine, it doesn't get done in one day's time lapse. There's so much to it. There's so many moving parts to it, but we get a huge chunk of it done. We get a massive chunk of it done with, I would say, maybe about 20% left to go at the end. But I do want to kind of reconsider my approach for that remaining 20%. I want to think about what I want to do, so I kind of need to step away and come back. Not next time. Maybe next time. No, maybe, I don't know. Maybe next time. I'll think about it. Let's not talk about the future. Let's talk about the present and what's going on with this, 80 or so-ish % that we've completed. So, again, a big part of this space is it's supposed to be kind of a green space. A big part of my kind of personally driven initiative based on your feedback from several sessions ago now was the desire to try more interesting things with our green spaces, with our vegetation, with our landscaping, if you will. And so I tried to keep that in mind. It's kind of funny actually, coming back to something after being away from it for so long will make you a little rusty. It might be like riding a bike, but that first time you hop onto a bike after 20 years of not riding a bike, you're still kind of uncertain. How true is that statement? I would say this was very similar. It's just like refamiliarizing myself with all the parts, with all the plants, with just how some things will and won't bend to your will. It's weird what a week and a half or 2 weeks away from a game can do to you. But quickly enough, I found myself back in my element, and I'm very pleased with the progress we make today, despite the those like little road bumps, if you will. Anyway, so creating a little setup over here with a bunch of planters. I really like the stepping thing we had going with the koala enclosure, so trying to recreate that but using different materials. And here you can see a really strange bug. If you slow it down over there, a really strange bug with the water, where the water wasn't being put into the barrier properly, and when it was being put into the barrier, it was being put in parts. It's very strange. Anyway, that gives away what I'm trying to do over here, which is set up a little, I want to call it a pool, or even a pond. I suppose we'd call it a pond, but set up a little kind of body of water over here. Now, in my head canon, there would be like little fish and stuff maybe swimming around in this water, but that's not really a possibility. However, what it does allow us to do is it allows us to not just add certain types of plants like lily pads and things like that, but also break up the texture a little bit and do something a little bit different that the people up top on that platform are able to enjoy, that the people on the ground level might not be able to see. Give a reason for going the other way as well. You can see a little bit of a struggle over here in terms of lining things up and trying to get the height of things right. Again, I don't think I'll ever... I really wish water worked on like a smaller increment basis. I don't understand why it has to work on the way it does in terms of the levels it's allowed and not allowed to be on. I'm sure there is some reason, but I'm also sure that I don't like it, just because it gets in the way of more fine-tuned placement and things like that. We work around it just fine. It was just something that I have to think about. Now, I actually don't know if I want to do any VFX or anything showing water spilling over or anything like that, leaving that kind of out there and open. Probably not. Probably keep this relatively calm. But yeah, so you can see we can add some vegetation that we wouldn't otherwise have been able to add. We can add, rather we have added some textures that would otherwise not exist in the area. In my opinion, it just makes the space a bit more interesting rather than just plants. It does something with it. And I intend to do something different. Like this is our like there's two areas like this where there's room for vegetation. I intend to do something different with the other one. Again, just adding some variety to these spaces and making it again more interesting to be that top level looking down, having something to look at, having reason to be up over here in the first place, right? But with that, and I think that's all the that's part of the vegetation done on those steps. I do add some obviously to the ground level over here as well, and again pushing myself to try and use different plants, pushing myself to try and use kind of like logic in terms of composition, if you will, like keeping the tall plants in the back, the shorter plants in the front, that kind of stuff. It's like I'm doing like a class photo, honestly. But just trying to apply some of that logic to see if I can't make sure more is visible than not. Make sure we have a variety of colors. It definitely was again a bit of a challenge. It's something I struggle with anyway. Something I'm not something I don't spend a lot of time on to begin with. So coming back to it after a break has been interesting. But I'm pleased with the result though. Again, good old reliable Scabola bush, however that's pronounced, coming through to kind of fill up the space. I really like that asset. It has so much, especially at the larger sizes. There's so much variety. There's so much color. There's so much like surface area. It does a lot of work without wasting time. I mean, I could, yes, individually plant flowers, but that just feels like, not worth the effort. Also, part count, right? That's another thing that I try to stay conscious of. Despite what it looks like, despite the fact that it looks like I don't care about the part count anymore, I do still care about the part count. Anyway, so this is the other area I was talking about. We have two of these. One has that body of water, but this one going with something a little bit different here, going with that kind of stepped look, except focusing on that stepped look, expanding that a bit larger. You could say that going from this section to the next section, you see the evolution of the idea, maybe even. But jokes aside, I just felt like it looks nice. It's an interesting viewing experience from both sides, and we can have more fun than just kind of a flat layer of, I don't know, flowers, and then all of a sudden a walkway. I think it makes it more fun. Y'all let me know what you think. As always, I'm open to feedback, open to people's thoughts, open to suggestions, ideas, what have you. But yeah, that's gonna go ahead and put the mulch down to kind of clear up the space, and again, add some visual layering when I add the plants. And it's always good to have that baseline. It just adds that, not just that depth, like you can see it here. It adds that depth, and also adds like just a bit of a touch of realism. And it all comes together very nicely. And you can see here again, mixing colors, trying to make sure that some flowers of different types peek through. I did, and I think I mentioned this earlier as well, I did want to have a bit of a wild feel. Like, so there are some organized elements as well. To me, again, in my head, it's like the idea of, how do I put this? Without sounding like I'm going through an existential crisis. Life is fascinating, the fact that it exists, right? We come from this like primordial goop, and from it springs life. And then it evolves. There's so many like layers to this conversation that this time lapse is not long enough for me to talk about, to ramble about. But I wanted to have these overall wild feeling areas to represent kind of like, again, that chaos, that goop, as it were, and then the more structured areas within them to represent it all kind of coming together and making sense, or in this case, making, you know, beautiful, hopefully beautiful visuals. Much like, you know, in the real world, or over the course of time, we've ended up with some very fascinating organisms. So that was like, you know, there was a lot of, well, what's it called? I guess existentialism going on over here. But I mean, I hope you can humor that because, or humor me that because I was having some fun. Kind of like thinking in that headspace. Having some fun over here as well with these trees along the back line. In fact, after this time lapse, I do have a question about it. I'm curious to see if folks know what's going on over here. I've got this kind of undulating pattern, if you will. It goes, you know, up and down and up and down. I'm curious. I mean, it's not supposed to be, and I say this after the time lapse as well, it's not supposed to be all, you know, in your face or anything like that, but it's a little something, a little nod to things as well on the topic of, well, everything that's relevant to this area. And I'm curious to see if people know what I'm getting at, if it's, you know, on the level of totally obvious to not obvious at all. I feel like it's closer to the not obvious at all sort of region. So I'm very curious if it's like, if it's even remotely, if it even remotely translates or communicates. I don't know how important it is that it does or doesn't. It's one of those like inside joke kind of things, I guess. If it doesn't, I will explain what it is. You know, if nobody gets it, I will explain what it is because it's a fun inside joke that we can all have. But yeah, that's that done. We're gonna go ahead and fill up some of the space over here as well. Again, that trusty old Scaevola bush coming through. Look at that. It looks, you know, like not just like proper chaos, but it fills the space up nicely. There's textures, there's layers, there's color variation, there's shading, all kinds of beautiful stuff. But folks, on the topic of beautiful stuff, I hope you found this time lapse to be full of beautiful stuff. But this is where I'm going to have to call it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very happy with the end result. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup over here as I add a few more spots of color. I will also get rid of some of the trees that I felt were blocking the view of the up and down undulating bushes that I was mentioning earlier. But apart from that, that is it for this time lapse. Again, I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did or didn't, let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on things, you know, structurally, visually, aesthetically, etc., etc. But yeah, as I go about cleaning up the space a little bit and making a couple of adjustments here and there, I believe that is... Oh, a little bit more work. Never done, is it? Nothing's ever done. But this time lapse, at this point, is done. Alright, folks, it is good to see that some things never change. Still managing to bite off more than I can chew at any given time, but I'll be completely honest, I'm actually happy with that, with this time lapse. I'm just happy that this was all able to work. It looks like these new updates have done the trick. Planet Zoo is back, on schedule, God, it feels good just to be able to say that. But yes, I'm actually really pleased with the results of that time lapse, and I'm sure I talked about that during the time lapse itself. But as you can see, I was experimenting with a couple of different things, right? We like kind of touched on the idea of having a little water installation back over here many sessions ago, so I'm really glad to be able to revisit that and kind of rework that a little bit and kind of approach it a little differently, but still managed to pull it off. But I'm not gonna. I hope I didn't mention it during the time lapse, or I hope I don't in future mention it in the time lapse in the past. But I'm just curious if people can. It's not supposed to be like in your face and blatant. It's more just like an inside joke, I suppose, if you will. But I wonder if folks have any idea what I've got going on back over here with this, with these like bushes or like these trees that turn to bushes and go down and then back up and then back down over here in the background and back up and then back down again. I just, it's again, it's not supposed to be too loud and in your face, more of a subtle nod. And I'm just curious if y'all know what I'm going for over there. Yeah, and it starts up over here, goes back down, continues back up over here, goes back down, goes back up over here, goes back down. Apart from just being visually interesting, there's a extra something there. I'm just curious. But apart from that, the view from up over here also is very important to me to try and make this an interesting experience as well. And I feel like that's come together quite nicely. Like from up over here, it looks so like densely packed and everything. Whereas from like down over here, you have that stepping effect a bit more clear. It's still densely packed, still feeling very like wild is, I suppose, what I was going for. So very happy with how things have come together. Again, feeling a little rough around the edges, especially with regards to all this, landscaping stuff, because it's what we were exploring, or what I felt like I was exploring kind of freshly to begin with. So, it was already that level of newness to it, greenness to it, if you will. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the end result. Now that's just one side of Darwin's Den, though. I still have plans for this side that have been left barren. Whoops. This side over here on the left side from here that are still kind of barren. And I also have plans for maybe something overhead. Not for sure. I kind of like this open. Probably not going to do anything overhead, but I do want to do something on this left-hand side. Nonetheless, that's the time-lapse and time-lapse conversation that I'm sure has happened. Don't want to, belabor that too much. Just want to hit play again, and maybe let's take a look and see if we can't improve the circumstances as far as guest happiness is concerned. Bit of a lag spike there. Looks like we're still good for recording. Yeah, looks like we're still all right. But yeah, the hope is guests will start being a little bit happier now. Next session, I'm not sure what we'll be able to accomplish, like what I'll be focusing on. Obviously, I'll take a look at what the comments have to say, but next session, again, just as a reminder, we're going to be doing a trade session, a large, massive trade session, which of course does eat up a fair bit of time. I do want to go through all the animals and what prices we sell them for, what we set them for, and what we get for them. I feel like that's a very nice thing to kind of do together. That'll be next session, and apart from that as well, of course, we are doing staff naming for sure next session, and the sponsor boards will probably be in the beauty pass that comes in maybe the session after that, or perhaps the either the session after that or the session after that, because I don't want to take too long before we get a new animal in up over here again, just as a reminder. Yeah, sorry, I know I sound like a broken record, but I just, again, getting back into the rhythm of things, right? Now, what are we looking at over here in terms of guests? Animals are very happy. Animals are doing pretty okay, I'm pretty sure. Again, we cannot get a male kangaroo in, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's not the end of the world. We have a few, decently aged... decently aged sounds like the opposite of what I mean to say. But a few, nothing that's too old or anything like that, but of course as soon as possible I will want to get a male kangaroo in. I don't want to lose out on some of these genetics. There we go, there's another one over there. Again, pretty solid genes over here, not too old either. 2.7 over here, we have a 14, so a little bit on the older side, but as you can see, we have good genetics available for some time yet. I believe there's a third female as well. If I could just find you. Marley? Yes, I believe you're the other one. Yeah, 13.5, good genes as well. Now, one thing that I didn't touch on before the time lapse, but I mentioned last session, well, in that missing hour. But our koalas have turned out to be a rather poor quality. And if I could just find one, I'm pretty sure one of them's hanging out on a tree over here right now. Oh, there we go. If I could just find one, I'll be able to point out that Hunter and Penelope are both infertile. We managed to, well, Madison is the child with whom we will find a male koala to procreate. But yeah, both mom and dad, Hunter and Penelope, are infertile. They only had the one child. Well, that's wild to me. They've been kept happy. They've been well taken care of. We haven't been getting any warnings about their welfare or anything like that. But they only managed to have the one kid. And this was something I discovered during that missing hour, and I intend to obviously fix up ASAP. Now, fortunately, we have a silver rank offspring over here with Madison. We want to make sure that we get a decent male candidate to make sure that we have, you know, hopefully more koalas. This was wild to me when I noticed that. I was like, wait a sec, that doesn't, how does that, what? Because I was thinking, I'd been thinking in the back of my head, it's like, remember to keep an eye out for when more koala babies happen, because we want to look at the animation again, right? Like, one time's not nearly enough. And then it occurred to me during that hour, I was like, wait, it's been a long time. What's going on? Lo and behold, they're not having babies. Well, it looks like we're getting some good movement back over here now, which is nice to see. Do we have these education boards? They're all up and running. They're all good. We have bins back over here as well. We have donation bins. Do we have trash can? Ah, we don't have trash cans back over here. All right, let's get on that, because it's just a matter of time before somebody decides this is a good spot for litter. There we go. Pop down over here as well. Good stuff. Oh, apparently, by the way, I touched on this in that time lapse from the last session. Apparently, this shape of the entrance is I might want to actually modify this a little bit to make it a bit more accurate, but it's to prevent animals from getting into the huts, which is very interesting. It was insight shared in the comments of that session, and I thought it was fascinating. I love learning things as much as possible. So whenever you have an interesting piece of insight that's relevant to something we've been talking about, feel free to share, because I do like learning. You never really stop learning. Well, I mean, you can choose to stop learning. I've chosen not to. I don't know. Potentially one of my favorite things is to learn new things. Go ahead and boom. Go with 8. Let's see if that... Oh, looks like we're already drawing a crowd over here with the $8 pricing. Protesters have arrived. Well, what are you protesting now? What are you unhappy about? Why are these guys unhappy? Oh, are they stuck or are they efficient? Hydration. Why are you headed that way? There's water over here. What? Oh, what's gone wrong over here? Do I need to get a water pipe? You're going to be cleaning over here now. Clean this mess up as well, please. Okay. Water. I mean, I suppose I could put down a water pipe or something. I was really expecting this would be enough. But it seems they do like traveling. Okay, fair enough. Habitat. Water pipe. Ooh, water pool. Huh. Interesting. No, water pipe is what I want, though. Put one down over here. Should be enough room. That's still fine kind of layout. I put another one down over here somewhere, I'm thinking. Maybe over... you know what, actually? I don't like that so much. Here, maybe. A little funky looking, but they can only go so far before they urgently need things, right? They can't preempt their thirst or hunger. They only feel it when they feel it. Oh, I think we also had some new Galapagos babies that you might have missed that were good quality genetics as well. But quite a few things happen in an hour. I was hungry up over here. You know, let's go ahead and maybe upgrade some of our staff. Not going to hire new staff. Let's upgrade some of our existing staff. I think it'll help a fair bit, especially when it's, our keepers and stuff. We need to do better over here. Oh, energy, high workload. Oh, lots of caretaking for the caretakers needed, it looks like. very well. Well, for the keepers, but work with me here. Work with me here. Okay, keep leveling you up, please. Again, higher level vendors and stuff makes a big difference as well. Let's cap at level 4 right now, because money is now starting to drop a little bit. I'm not to the point where I'm nervous about it or anything. It might just be a feeding going on right now. But of course, the protesters in the zoo are going to be a problem if we don't quickly make these animals happy. These guys are walking through everything, making everybody upset. Well, actually, I don't know. Are you upset about the protesters? A lot of vandalism here. What's going? Why? Today's been a very vandalism. Was there an update to the game as well that maybe I missed the note on? It's been a very vandalism heavy episode, hasn't it? Like, I don't think I've seen that many instances of vandalism back to back in any session. Now, I don't think the protesting is affecting anybody until they actually arrive at their destination, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Hopefully by the time they get there, the tortoises will who's faster, the protester or the tortoise? That's the question. Hopefully by the time they get here, these animals will have had some water. What's going on here? Titan Town causing me some trouble. Okay, fair enough. Let's go ahead and sort that out real quick. Keep you and you. Everybody else, the trade center. Done and done. Money, yeah, money's still looking all right. Good stuff. Again, I feel like we have just a couple of issues here and there that will sort out in terms of happiness. We'll sort out as people filter out. But on the topic of filtering out, this segue doesn't work. I'm using the word out to segue into the fact that it's time for me to peace out. We're going to call it a session over here, folks. We've actually done quite a bit on Darwin's Den. It's been kind of sitting there looking not so pretty for so long, and finally we've reintroduced some of the vegetation over here, which I feel very happy about. Next session is going to be another intense one as far as just doing a lot of stuff that has needed doing for a very long time, primarily with regards to the trading session. Again, I'll be throwing a tweet out when I'm trading. It'll be Monday for the episode that releases on Tuesday. Apart from that, either next session or the session after that, we're going to start getting to work, up over here, and eventually I want to kind of build up. I think I want to build up this section over the next handful of weeks or what have you. So I'm curious to hear as well what y'all think about this area over here in terms of the various plans and the various options for plans that we have, and the overall kind of safari plan as well. I know there was a lot of conversation today, but there was a lot of catching up on the stuff that happened over that hour, the stuff that I talked about over the hour, and you saw I actually almost nearly missed out on the koala conversation. So I'm glad I remembered that. So much is going on, but folks, I think the most important thing that's going on is that Planet Zoo is back, and we are back in action, back to the regular schedule as it was before, hoping to accomplish quite a bit over the next handful of weeks with regards to adding more animals. Got lots of plans that we've been kind of sitting on, so super excited to get to it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you did, you know what to do. Let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. As always, it makes a massive difference in how I approach content on the channel. Lets me know what y'all are interested in. Lets me know what I should, keep doing. Oftentimes, especially after a long break in a series, folks tend to kind of fall off, which is fair. I'm not that's perfectly natural. So if there is still an interest in the series, it'd be great to know. Leave a like. I'll be looking at the view counts and stuff as well. Obviously, hopefully things are still looking good in terms of interest levels, because that'd be great. Apart from that as well, of course, on the topic of interest levels, I want to give a massive thanks to all of the channel members and patrons who have been supporting this channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly, and as always, the longer kind of series and stuff, they all really get boosted because of your patronage and your support as either patrons or members. So thank you very much. And of course, your viewership does the same as well. As I always say, I look at the numbers, I look at the comments and all that kind of stuff to get an understanding of what people like to see and what they want more or less of. So again, thank you all for your support as channel members, as channel patrons, and as viewers. Thank you as well for your patience. We're back, baby. I'm so happy to be able to say that. Until next time, cheers.